What do you like? Tell me what you like.
I love the idea of nourishing both our body and our soul.
Welcome to the Nourishing You podcast presented by the National Association of Nutrition Professionals, NANP. We invite you to join Kristen Burkett and Diana Wally as they host experts from the holistic wellness space who will share practical tips and information to enhance your health and vitality. Kristen and Diana are master nutrition therapists and board certified in holistic nutrition with private practices that support their clients as they strive to reach their full potential. If you enjoyed today's show, please help us out by commenting below, liking this video, and subscribing to the channel to help us spread the word.
You have to move your body.
That's my message. That's my passion.
This episode of the Nourishing You podcast is brought to you by Beam Minerals.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Nourishing You podcast. Today, we have Niki D'Agostino talking with us about how our nervous system balance can affect our health in general and even our recovery from chronic illness. Niki D'Agostino specializes in mold illness, anxiety, depression, loss of energy, food sensitivities, emotional regulation difficulties, and motion sickness using neuroplasticity therapy. She helps her clients reverse limbic system impairment in the brain and regulate a maladaptive stress response involved with many chronic illnesses. She teaches clients how to rewire the limbic system and change the structure and function of the brain. Rewiring the brain shifts the brain and the body from a state of survival into a state of growth and repair. Alongside a master's degree in physical therapy, Niki has a certification in the Safe and Sound Protocol, Positive Neuroplasticity Training, and a professional's course in neuroplasticity. She has attended the Master Series Trauma Workshop with Drs. Bessel van Der Kolk, Peter Levine, and Stephen Porges. She has also completed Dr. Cathleen King's Primal Trust and Creating Calm courses. Welcome, Niki. But we're more than excited to have you and to talk about this topic.
Thank you guys for having me, and I'm very excited to be here. I'm very passionate about nervous system health.
And this is such an interesting topic and not a common point of conversation in most conventional health circles. So we cannot wait to dig in. But first, we'd love to hear a recap of your story and how you came into this particular area with your physical therapy background.
Sure. So years ago, back in 2016, I moved into a new home and I started having a lot of emotional and physical symptoms. Went from doctor to doctor and no one could figure it out. I found a functional practitioner that figured it out immediately and said, you have been exposed to mold. You need to do brain retraining. And I was like, what is that? I've never heard of that. And I wasn't on board initially. I thought, just give me the pills, give me the supplements. We'll skip that other part. And, I needed the brain retraining. Months later, I finally said, okay, I'm willing to do anything. I want to feel better. And within 6 months, I felt so much better. My symptoms had decreased drastically. My mood had improved so much. And I realized the importance of nervous system health in the healing process.
Wow. And so were you a physical therapist before that time, or how did
So,
that
yeah,
come
so I was
together?
a physical therapist years ago. And then I went into pharmaceutical sales for a while. And then I had my babies and I kind of retired from all of that and raised my girls. And then after having the mold exposure and becoming ill and kind of turning that around with the nervous system work, I really became passionate about coaching. And that's when I got back into really teaching and coaching.
How old are your children?
One is 17 now, and the other is 12. I have 2 daughters.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Well, we're glad you're feeling better and that this was
Yes.
the answer for you, or at least, part of the process for you to get there.
hmm
So I know our audience is going to love this conversation. So let's start with the basics. So Niki, can you share with us what exactly nervous system dysregulation is. I think a lot of people might hear the word nervous system and maybe naturally think about general stress response, that type of anxiety maybe because you're thinking nervous system. But I think it goes a little deeper, and I would just love for you to clarify
Yeah.
that. Thanks. Yeah.
So, nervous system dysregulation is a state where the autonomic nervous system is stuck in a survival mode, preventing healing, digestion, and immune regulation from working properly. So, the brain and the body are stuck in a fight, flight, stress response, sending repeated messages of danger to one another. And this results in a continuous release of that stress hormone biochemistry, which keeps us with symptoms, with health issues.
Oh, okay. So tell us, let's just even go back a little bit more basic. What's the difference between, tell us about the autonomic nervous system and how that interacts with different parts of our nervous system so we really understand what pieces we're working with here.
Sure. So the autonomic nervous system is our operating system, and it is constantly searching our environment for cues of safety or danger. Okay, they call that neuroception. It answers the question, in this moment, am I safe? And if the nervous system doesn't feel safe, then you can go in a sympathetic fight or flight response. That's that survival mode, or you can go in a freeze shutdown state, which is this dorsal vagal shutdown. This is how the nervous system protects us. Now, if you're in a state where you feel safe, you trust in the experience that you're having, you trust in your body, then the nervous system shifts into a ventral vagal state where you feel safe enough to connect to yourself and to others. You feel resourceful, you feel resilient, you feel flexible.
Okay. So how does this affect the body relative to chronic illness?
So if you are constantly feeling unsafe, let's say you're in an environment that's not perfect, you're in a relationship that's not perfect, you don't trust in the experience that you're in, you don't trust in your body's ability to heal, that keeps you in this unconscious chronic stress response. And that leads to nervous system dysregulation, limbic system impairment that can even cause the cell danger response to occur. This leads to more inflammation in the body. So one thing that's important to understand is you really have to have an innate sense of safety in both your conscious and unconscious mind. That allows the healing process to continue and to complete. If you don't feel safe, it allows suppression of the inflammation, and that leads to ongoing symptoms and ongoing chronic illness. Present moment safety is the key. We have to find safety in the present moment.
Well, I was just thinking, like, I think you hit on a really big word there that we might want to explore more, is just that unconscious sense of not feeling safe. Because I could see where somebody could be in a situation or with an illness for a very long time and think today, well, I'm not in that situation anymore. I'm out of that house, or I'm out of that relationship, or whatever it might be, and feel like, well, it can't be that because I'm not thinking about that right now. And that's the conscious mind. So tell us, like, how long can some of that unconscious thinking go on and affect us?
So the unconscious piece we call parts, which is a neural network of a memory plus an emotion plus a belief and a behavior. Okay, so parts are like survival patterns and activation. It's how the nervous system allowed us to cope when we were in an intense event. Some people refer to them as trauma patterns. Okay, so trauma patterns get lodged into our muscles and our fascia. They activate the nervous system to go into that survival mode. And it can cause us to kind of keep reliving the past. And it's affecting us even down to the cellular level. A lot of times people don't even realize that they're in a stress response. They're unaware that they're in this unconscious chronic stress response. It's ongoing.
Wow. And how long can it be there? Like, can it be
It
like
can
things
be,
from childhood back into adulthood? Like
yes,
how far back can it go?
anytime.
Yeah.
So anytime there's an intense emotional event and the brain is not able to process that emotion in the moment, the nervous system comes up with a survival strategy to cope. And what happens, the limbic system, which is this emotional center of our brain, is stuck trying to resolve the past. So almost like you're reliving it at an unconscious level over and over again. So the way to heal trauma is to go into the body and work somatically with the felt sensations. You can't just talk yourself into safety. You have to interrupt the stress loop in the body as well.
And I was just thinking that there might be people that don't even realize that they're, as you said, that they have
Mm-hmm.
that subconscious stress because that's how they grew up. Like they
Mm-hmm.
were born into stress and that's their normal.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm also curious, so do you think that this could be a missing link for people that have chronic illness that they should look into on their path to wellness? Like how important is this to explore?
This is very important. I am such a firm believer in really learning nervous system self-regulation tools. This allows us to consciously influence our mental, emotional, and physical health. It really can ignite our body's natural healing ability. It sends a calming biochemistry to the cells of our body. It helps improve cellular tolerance to triggers, treatments, and even to symptoms that we might be experiencing.
Wow. Yeah, I could see where, and I have experience with clients in my past that, it seems like we've done all the things, but we're
Mhm.
not making progress. And so you think, what am I missing? And maybe, this can be a really big piece of that. That, a lot of us, I think as we get in our different training buckets, whether it's nutrition therapy or other
Mhm.
modalities, we're not always exposed to all of these different pieces that could work into, practicing and working with somebody. And I think this is a piece that, well, I know this was not part of my training, was to look at this piece. I've come on it more recently and
Mhm.
trying to integrate it more with, I've actually been working through Primal Trust myself, which
Oh,
has been
good.
really fascinating. And that's what kind of sparked my interest in getting you on here, is just learning more. But I can see how, a lot of us aren't equipped with the tools to help somebody even begin to access thinking about this, so I think this is great. So what about like everyday life? Can nervous system regulation just help us? Maybe we don't have a chronic illness or a major issue, but I feel like the world we live in now is very different than maybe what we all grew up in, relative to stress and everything that's coming at us in different ways. How can nervous system regulation help us on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, it's so important. We live in a world where there's ongoing stress. And what we're doing with nervous system regulation is we are training the body to move out of stressful states and to return to safety and healing as needed. We want to be able to kind of ride that wave of stress, safety. And the self regulation practices allow us to be able to experience stress, but then find safety soon after. And that's the key, is to be able to move back into safety after we are triggered.
Another thing that just popped into my head that's maybe a little off topic, but I'm very curious about, and I know you have a teenager, and Kristen and I have been through that phase of life. And I mean, really, this could apply to anybody, but what impact, if any, would social media have on that sort of subconscious stress? And I think it's not only comparing ourselves to, our neighbor's perfect life, right? Because we have a perfect life on social media, but also I don't know that we were wired to know about everything that's going on in the entire world. So we're carrying all of that stress on us. So yeah, I guess what impact do those types of things have on your work?
Yeah, I think when you have constant external stimulation coming in, it really prevents us from being in the present moment, being in our environment, noticing the details around us. If we're constantly on our devices and we're clicking and there's likes and all the stimulation coming in, we're really missing the present moment of what's happening right here and now. And as I stated before, remember, we're after this present moment safety. This present moment safety allows the body to complete a stress response. It allows the body to discharge inflammation and to come back into homeostasis.
So, I think about okay, we'll just take the teenager example. Let's
Yeah.
just take it further. I think about a teenager who's been at school all day, been in classes. There's a lot of stress that goes on in that whole environment for multiple reasons. They get back to their room, and the first thing they do is pick up their phone and they start scrolling, because to them that's de-stressing, right? But really, what you're saying here is we're really just adding to it, and we're not allowing the body to de-stress.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit. You touched on trauma, a little bit earlier. So let's look at past trauma a little bit. So, when we think of past trauma, what it looks like, many people think that it's, a major catastrophic life event, which of course it could be. So let's talk about, what types of things could fit in this category of major life trauma, because I feel like it could be different for different people. So yeah, let's explore that a little bit.
So I love Gabor Mate's definition of trauma. He says it's not what happened to you; it's what happens inside of you as a result of what happened to you. So it's not about the event; it's how you respond to the event, and we all respond differently. So something that feels really big to one person may not feel big at all to them. It just depends on how regulated we are at the time of the event, if we were able to speak or express or move, discharge the information some way during the intense emotional event, really impacts the lasting effects on us with trauma.
So are you saying, so as an example, if something, catastrophic, or someone feels it was a catastrophic event to them, but they were maybe able to talk to somebody about it, see a therapist, or talk with a friend, a partner about it, they may be able to regulate that better than somebody who maybe held it inside?
Sure, or who felt like they weren't able to speak up, or they couldn't physically remove themselves from the situation, or even a child where they just felt helpless and unable to presence what was happening, or to really hold space for the event. And it affects each of us differently depending on how we were in that moment and how we were able to process the sensations after. So with trauma, there's the story of what happened, correct? And then there's the felt sensations. So what we're teaching our clients, I want you to interrupt the story. I'm not saying deny it or pretend like it didn't happen, but we don't want to focus on the story. We want to go inside the body and presence the felt sensations. So it feels like something. It could feel tight, heavy. It could feel very, contracted. There's different ways to kind of describe it, but you're presencing the felt sensations, and that's what helps to release the trauma over time.
Interesting. Yeah, I think about how many things happen over the course of our lives and I think maybe even more so when we were younger, because, we were always taught you just learn to deal with it, right? You don't have to, you just take it and you just keep going.
Right.
Now, I think there's a little bit more grace in helping people to recognize it's okay to have these feelings. You need to recognize these feelings. Your mental health is important. But gosh, growing up, when there was something major that happened, suck it up, go and keep going, right? Like you just have to deal with it because that's what you do. And I think of how many feelings are trapped and just continuously cycling, in our brains and affecting us subconsciously. Yeah.
It's so true. I just a personal anecdote. My husband lost his father when he was 5 and his sister was 2 in a plane crash. He was in the military, a pilot, and his plane crashed in a storm. And so his mother never had any type of therapy, like never talked about it at all. Never remarried, anything like that. My husband processes it, like he remembers his dad a little bit. He talks about it. His sister, my sister-in-law, she has done so much. So she's gone to the crash site, like she hired an military investigator to go to the crash site and found parts of the plane and has done so much exploration into the accident. And that's sort of how she's dealt with it. It's just really interesting to see. And she's thriving and doesn't have, sad memories and all that. And then how my husband dealt with it and then how his mother dealt with it. Of course, back in the day, you didn't even discuss it. And, she was, which is so sad, but anyway, just kind of interesting to look at how different people process things.
Yeah. We all respond differently. Yeah.
Beam Minerals, the multi-mineral solution. Your body contains approximately 100 different types of minerals, but most people are deficient or imbalanced, leading to symptoms like brain fog, lethargy, irregular sleep patterns, and even reduced sex drive. Yet mineral supplementation remains neglected, mostly because people don't realize how easy it is. Finally, someone is talking about mineral replenishment. Containing each of the minerals the body needs for optimal function, Beam Minerals restores cellular energy, allowing the body to gain and maintain healthy balance.
Just to kind of, I don't know, maybe it's kind of like a give permission thing, I guess. Can you just name for us some things that might be considered like a past trauma or an event that could trigger some of this nervous system dysregulation that maybe generally we wouldn't think should be a big deal? And so we tend to write it off because, oh no, that just happens to everybody. But it could affect, people, like you said, in different ways. Would you mind listing off some things that you've had come up with clients over time that might fit that?
Yeah, absolutely. So divorce, losing a job, being embarrassed in a public area. There's so many things that one person may say, well, that's not trauma. And then to another person, it leaves a lasting imprint on their nervous system.
Yeah, I just think it would be so easy for a lot of us to just write off things because we think, oh, well, it shouldn't be something that bothered me.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And sometimes we might not even know what the main event was, but we'll develop a trauma pattern. So I'll give you an example. For me, it was rushing. That is how I learned to cope.
Do you mean what do you mean rushing?
Oh, sorry. Rushing is in feeling this sense of urgency around time.
Okay.
Having to get everything done. I need to hurry, hurry, hurry. And when you start to kind of become aware of these patterns in your behavior, it lets you know when maybe there's a trauma pattern that's activated. So I just started becoming aware when I felt triggered, what would I do? Well, for me, I would rush. There was this sense of urgency around time. And I started becoming aware of that and then making sure that I pattern interrupted the story around why I needed to hurry. And then I would go into the body and notice what that feeling is like, that sense of urgency that you feel like you just need to go fast. And I would intentionally presence it and then slow down, make myself slow down so I can see there's no tiger, there's no sense of urgency. This is just an old pattern that's replaying, and I get to choose a new way to behave. Now, this takes time and effort and conscious intention, but that's how you repattern these trauma responses over time.
That's a great example. So, how would we begin to know that something from our past might be interfering today, especially if we think we've dealt with it and we really don't recognize it or think about it on a conscious level anymore?
So I think the biggest thing is just having awareness of your thoughts, of behaviors, of maybe sensations that are happening when you feel triggered, and making a conscious effort to be present with that activation, and then choosing a new perspective around your initial story, if that makes sense. So we really need to start with, what are we believing? What are these deep core beliefs that we have believed and told ourselves over and over? Maybe someone else has told us. That can cause a lot of dysregulation. These deep beliefs can interfere with our nervous system, can cause us to feel unsafe, can cause us to feel, danger in the future. We're worrying about things that aren't in the present moment, that might potentially happen in the future, or that have happened in the past. And it only exists in the past if we think about it, right? The past is the past unless we bring it up with our thoughts.
Right. So I guess the big question is, you started to talk about this, is about how we go, we start working through all of this.
Mhm.
And I know most people, when they think about how they deal with past traumas or past issues, is probably talk therapy, some kind of psychotherapy. Obviously, you work in a different realm of dealing with these things, and you work through Primal Trust as one of your main tool sources. Can we start to just get into some detail about what's involved with that, and maybe what some of those processes are? I know, they talk about brain retraining and nervous system healing. Are these different things? Are they the same? What does working with a tool like Primal Trust bring to the ability to work through this kind of thing?
Okay. So with Primal Trust, there's 3 different levels within this nervous system regulation academy and community. There's the level 1 regulate program, where the client is really starting to understand what a chronic stress response is and how that leads to nervous system dysregulation, why it's important to desensitize the brain and the nervous system to these internal and external threats. The client is learning polyvagal mapping, vagal toning tools, brain retraining, breath work, somatics, and trauma work to really help build nervous system capacity and to find present moment safety, even when they feel stressed or when they feel uncomfortable because they have symptoms, or maybe they're in an environment that's not perfect and they're learning how to still find this present moment safety. So that is the level 1 regulate. It takes about 2 to 4 months to complete. And then the client would move into the level 2 mentorship program. This is a little bit longer. It's 4 to 6 months to complete. The client is learning how to really change these trauma response patterns. They're working on inner attachment repair and parts work. They're changing these deep core beliefs that might be hindering their healing. And they're on a true self discovery journey. They're trying to find out, why do I need energy? Why do I need my life force back into my body? What makes me want to get up every day and live life? What am I passionate about? Then the level 3, the client takes the principles that they've learned from level 1 and level 2 and really apply these principles to all facets of their life. This is a continuation of their transformation journey in community through values-based living, leadership, and also service opportunities.
Interesting.
So, I'm curious about the service opportunities. How does that facilitate the healing process?
So there's a lot of graduates, Primal Trust graduates in our community that love to lead brain retraining practices or vagal toning tools. We have live classes offered every day. And there's something to be said about healing in community, about being seen, about being validated for your hard work, and really having other people really understand what you're going through, what you've been through, and how exciting it is to start feeling hopeful again, to start feeling good, to really start wanting to live life. And the community platform really offers everyone to get involved.
It's awesome. So, at what part of somebody's healing journey, let's say we have people somewhere on their journey with some level of illness, chronic illness, not feeling their best,
Mhm.
when's the right place to step into putting your toes into this to see, is this part of my journey for me? Is this something I should include in my journey?
Honestly, I think if you're experiencing stress, this is super helpful. You don't have to have chronic illness or chronic symptoms to really start to learn these self-regulation tools. This is something that can help just bring in more calm, more peace, more resilience into your day. And I would say if anyone is struggling with feeling overwhelmed, feeling like there's just not enough time in the day, this would be a good, place to start. You start with the Regulate program, you learn the science behind a stress response, and then you can continue on in your journey if you want. Or some people, most people keep going because once you kind of dip your toe in, you just want to, continue the path of transformation. But if you're someone that just wants to get a little bit of nervous system regulation capacity under your belt, then you can just come in and start learning a few tools just to help with your day-to-day life. One thing, though, I think it's important to understand, the nervous system work really has to become part of your lifestyle. You have to really learn that you have to decrease your overall stress load and make this a part of your life.
Do you have any tips and tricks, like, for the listener?
Mhm.
Um, you know, because we all have stress, like,
Mhm.
we have real lives. Um, is there one of two things that people could do to reduce that overall stress load while living
Yes.
a normal life?
Absolutely. I try to weave in things that bring in safety throughout my day. For example, if I start to feel a little tension in my body or I feel some urgency around what I need to be doing, I just try to pause and orient. And what I mean by orient, I just kind of start looking around slowly, noticing the details around me. This recreates this orienting response. This is how the nervous system searches for cues of safety or danger. And if you're noticing the details around you and you're being curious and a little open-hearted while you're doing it, it's sending safety messages to the nervous system. Another thing that can be super helpful is if you find that you're in your head replaying a past scenario or predicting something in the future that might not be helpful, I just try to bring myself to the present moment, but also bring up things that I'm really grateful for while I'm doing that. To really bring myself into, I'm here now in this moment, and I'm really grateful for, my living room. I'm grateful for running water as I'm washing my hands. I'm grateful for the sun that's shining today. All of this brings in present moment safety, which is the key to unlocking healing. It really is.
Oh, gratitude is amazing.
The
I've been
best.
known to cry over like just my kids will be like, "Mom, what's wrong?" I'm like, "I was just thinking about all the things I'm grateful for." And like just like you said, like my home and my food, and like I'm doing dishes because I could make a healthy meal and clean up the dishes. Yeah, it's incredible. And I wanted to really highlight something for the listener too that Kristen and I talk about a lot, is that how you said to make it a lifestyle. So it's not just like a set it and forget it or a one-time thing or a four-month program, but make it a lifestyle. So, we talk about that with nutrition and fitness and all of those things, is to really incorporate it into your life. So I just wanted to highlight that it's
Yeah.
not a one-time fix. Yeah, it's so important.
So
And,
important.
and I think that up till, I don't know, the last 5 to 10 years, I'm sure, exercise was part of what we did. Nutrition's what people thought about. But the world is just so different now that this piece of nervous system regulation is really not an add-on anymore. It really is a necessity to be part of lifestyle components. And it's right up there with, nutrition, exercise, sleep, hydration. Nervous system regulation is there. But I think it's a terminology most people aren't familiar with. I think people are talking more about stress management, stress resilience, but this takes it even to a deeper level. And I think that's just that. So I'm really glad we could bring this conversation forward, because it's something we all need to think about in a little deeper way. And it's not just taking off the stressors. And a lot of people say, well, I can't change my life. I mean, it is what it is. But what you're telling us is there's a different way to regulate how we're taking in all of that that's going on around us. And that's where the magic happens, is that perception and that how we choose to interact with it, versus saying, well, I have to have a stress-free life before I can feel regulated. Like, 'cause that's never going to happen.
Good luck. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. No, that's a great point. It's a
Yeah.
great point.
That's beautifully said, Kristen. It's
Yeah.
really-
That was great.
So we understand that you guys are offering a new program for practitioners as well. And when I caught wind of that and I saw that, I thought, oh, our audience really needs to know about this. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes. So Dr. Cathleen King is teaching the program to practitioners, and it's once a month, and she's, offering it to practitioners. It's amazing. I've listened into on the recordings, and she's really gearing it towards practitioners, right? Really helping them to explain how important it is to address this with their patients, so that the medical side of it is tolerated better. And obviously, if the client is doing nervous system work, their body is really able to utilize the additional support, the medicine, the supplements, the different protocols. So it's a win-win for the client and for the practitioner.
Yeah, and I will just say, just from personally experiencing being a part of those recordings or the webinars, I love that she not only is teaching about the process and how it works, she's providing tools that practitioners can use. I mean, it's not like somebody going through the full program, but if the practitioner can at least introduce the tools to their clients and patients, it opens that door more, and it's not such a scary or inaccessible thing, because then there's more trust that, hey, my practitioner is recommending I do this, and they're showing me how to do part of it, and maybe I can get more by, diving in a little bit deeper. So I love all that she's coordinating in that.
Yeah, and the handouts that she provides to the practitioners, those are really wonderful to give to your patients to really explain the process. And so I think she's done a beautiful job really of bringing that to the community. So,
Well, Niki, you gave us a one or two things that you do in your own life, to kind of reinforce the things that you teach. So anything else, like we'd love a little insight into your day and the things that you do to support your health and your nervous system.
absolutely. So there's three things that I make sure that I do every day. I make sure that I breathe. And whether it's a VU breath or a box breath, some type of breath work. I love to do breath work. It helps me to come into the present moment. Emotional elevation, whether it's a meditation or being out in nature or having fun music on, something to elevate my emotional state that helps to really shift the biochemistry in your body. And then a movement, moving your body. Whether it's, I like to exercise, doing yoga, Tai Chi, some type of somatic, some type of movement is extremely helpful. So those are the things that I make sure that I do every single day to help really bring in self-regulation.
Wonderful. That's awesome. This has been such a great show. What would be the primary location our listeners could go to for more information? We'll have links in the notes, but if you want to go ahead and mention.
Absolutely. primaltrust.org. And I want to also mention that Dr. Cathleen King offers an ebook. It's over 100 pages offering information on the science behind nervous system dysregulation and the importance of learning nervous system regulation tools and practices. It's very comprehensive. I think it's a great place to start to really give you an idea of what is offered in the academy and community. So I would take advantage of that.
Great.
Yeah, I hope everybody does. This has been so fascinating. I've learned a ton. We can't thank you enough for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I am so glad that I was able to come and visit with you guys about this.
Yeah, us too. And thank you to everybody for listening today. We appreciate you all so much. And until next time, be well.
This episode of the Nourishing You podcast is brought to you by Beam Minerals. To learn more or to place an order, visit beamminerals.com. Don't miss a beat. Find other episodes and subscribe to this podcast on YouTube or check us out on your favorite streaming app. Now available on Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. You can also visit nanp.org for more information. Looking for a board-certified holistic nutrition professional to support you on your health journey? Go to nanp.org to get started today. Membership in the NANP provides you with a competitive advantage. Whether you're a current practitioner or a student, we want you to become an active, informed leader of the holistic nutrition community and join our association today. When you're ready to go a step further, you can boost your credibility by becoming board certified in holistic nutrition. Visit nanp.org today to apply. The information on the NANP podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be considered medical or legal advice. The NANP is not liable or responsible for any harm, damage, or illness arising from the use of the information contained herein. By listening to the information on this podcast, you agree to defend, indemnify, and hold harmless the NANP and all agents. Copyright NANP, all rights reserved. Until next time, stay nourished.